And something that's kind of fun getting into the tech side of things. You
Mm-mm.
know, Jack is a Windows user.
Mhm.
I had to throw him under the bus there, but I've been a diehard Linux guy for about 11 years now.
Okay.
And what's kind of been fun about that, though, is we get to bring great perspectives to a lot of different tech. Because you know I've kind of brought a lot of that Linux side and how it all can work and the options that are out there and everything, and then Jack comes from the kind of the ease of use and some of the driver availability world of Windows and stuff, and I think
Mhm.
that plays well into our content quite a lot.
Mm. So, what is your thoughts on the current direction that Windows has been going the past? I don't even know how many years now, but like the direction with. I saw a video the other day where there's like 7 Copilot buttons in Word now, um, and they all do
Yeah,
the same
well,
thing.
you're like adding fuel to my fire. Let's get started. All right.
You're
So
about to get it started.
yeah, I'm the crazy Linux friend of the group and all that kind of stuff, and like Jack is a Linux user. He has it on a couple of laptops and stuff
Okay,
like that.
okay.
He's used SteamOS for a while and everything as well, so he's
Okay.
definitely But like Windows 7 is what I was using when I switched to Linux full time.
Okay, a while
And
ago,
I
yeah.
started off dual booting with Ubuntu 12.04. And that was during early bad Unity days and everything. So there was, it still wasn't all that great.
Mhm.
But eventually I just found myself never even booting into Windows. So I wiped the drive entirely. But Windows 10 was too far for me on a lot of things with some of the things that they were doing with that back then. Cortana and all that kind of stuff, all the
Mm.
ads in the start menu. And I remember going back to Windows 10 because I had to when I was working in television, and they had all Windows 10 systems, and I had been using Linux entirely for years. And I'm like, wait, when did they add ads into here? Advertisements. It's like that was already too much for me. But Windows 11 for me, especially Copilot and things like that, it's just too far. But also, for me, I don't even I like to rip on Windows, yes, but I don't like to rip on Windows in the sense that some of those issues like Cortana or Copilot, those are easy targets. But for me, it's honestly, I like the choice of Linux. I like honestly, like I said, 11 years ago is when I started. I remember having to install Flash just to be able to watch YouTube videos and having to use like spoofers in the web browser in order to watch anything DRM protected.
Mhm.
So, I mean, Linux has come a long way and it's way easier than it was. And nowadays, I mean, I got my mom on Linux and she can hardly tell a difference because it's that easy nowadays.
Mhm.
And I love the choice of the desktop environments. I love just kind of the open nature of things just are kind of built into the kernel. I haven't had to install a driver in years.
Mhm.
Now that has its own issues and stuff like that, sure, but I like talking about Linux more from the perspective of like what makes it better, not what is worse about Windows.
Sure, sure.
And now Jack can rebut and tell me I'm completely wrong.
So what, before you do that, there was one thing I did see recently where where I actually would need to install a driver. I went down a rabbit hole looking into sim racing. I don't know if you've ever cared about it, but
I
sim
love
racing
Sims. Yeah.
it actually works basically perfectly on Linux. Like most of the stuff is upstreamed into the kernel. It's just like all the Logitech stuff just works out of the box. It's I think Thrustmaster, some of the Thrustmaster stack and some of the Moses stack you still need drivers for. Everything else just works. I had no idea that somebody had even done this work. So just a random bit of a side tangent. Jack, Windows. Tell us about
Okay.
Windows.
So the my thoughts on the Windows, and I guess, well, I'm currently on Windows 10 still. I
Okay, haven't
never
moved
was
to
able,
11
able to
yet.
really. Yeah, I have not. I'm holding off, even though I literally got an email from Windows again saying it's ending. You have till October, and basically, I don't know what I'm gonna do still. I do not like Windows 11 and a lot of the stuff that's in it, but I'm not really prepared to make the jump to Linux because I'm kind of waiting to see when Steam OS, or not Steam OS, when Steam finally releases Steam OS officially
Mhm.
for desktops. I I don't know. Windows has been one of those things that like I used to work in IT, and so that's maybe not why I like Windows. It's kind of simultaneously why I dislike it, but because I know how to work on it, that has made it usable for me. Because with Linux, if something happens, I'm kind of helpless. Like I don't know really what to do when it starts bugging out. But because I know how to fix Windows, that's not really why I like it. It's knowing how to use it. And
So for you, it's kind of like a familiarity with Windows.
It is, and I kind of am disappointed. I'm very disappointed. I really like the way Windows 11 looks, and I think Micah, you love the way it looks, right?
It's actually frustrating because Windows 11, when you don't click on too many applications and bring back the old Windows 98 UI, Windows 11 is one of the most gorgeous operating systems I've ever seen because of the way they've gone to the whole glass morphism look, and everything does look really nice and polished. But I've been able to replicate that on Linux a couple of times.
Magic of Linux right there, see?
Can't help it.
Yeah, that's a Linux answer. I'll just make it myself.
So, is there anything actually holding you on Windows at this point, or is it just you feel familiar with it and you just don't really want to make that move just yet?
2 words.
There's a couple.
2 words. Sony,
Vegas Pro.
Vegas.
Yeah.
I see.
Vegas, yeah, I primarily still use Vegas for a lot of stuff. And that's of course Windows only. But there's certain like modding applications where modding games and stuff like that that I was modding Beat Saber. I'm only really familiar with that aspect of it. And also because I also have some remote utility software that I'll use to remote in and help my family members if they have issues. I guess I know how to use this suite, did well enough to be dangerous with it. I'm not willing or don't really have the time right now to learn a whole new suite. And it's I don't know. I might eventually upgrade to Windows 11 and just put like a big network ad blocker on because I actually run AdGuard currently on my network. I might just try to like beef that up, but that's kind of the rock and the hard place I'm in right now.
Yeah, on the topic of Beat Saber mods, there is a Linux modding guide that exists. Apparently most of the mod managers don't work, but there is one that does. But, considering the mods are made with Windows in mind, like, there might be additional bugs and things like that. And yeah, I understand that perspective. It's gotten a lot better for sure, but especially like dealing with file paths and stuff, like things that might be located in slightly different locations, and you might not have documentation on where that stuff is because most people doing it are on the Windows side. So you kind of have to have an understanding of where it might be placed on a Linux system, which once you work it out, like, it's not that big of a deal, but trying to work it out is, I get that being kind of annoying.
Oh yeah, and I do, again, waiting on Steam or Valve. Please, Valve, release Steam OS, because that honestly, I think would, like, I'd be able to, like, okay, I'm making the switch officially, because I have an HP PC that I was running Linux on, but I swapped back to Windows because I was gaming on it, so I probably can swap it back to Linux. But
we should make a NoPlan video about that.
Exactly, there's a NoPlan video right there. But I don't know. I'm still comparing everything, and also I feel like part of me staying on Windows is because it annoys Micah.
That's the thing. I've tried shutting up a lot about it over the last few months because I'm like, come on, Windows 10's death is coming. It's going to happen. But no, Valve obviously, it's not exactly an unsung hero. Everybody in the Linux community is definitely praising Valve for what they're doing, but it needs to keep happening because they are Luke Skywalker bringing balance to the Force. I mean, if it was not for Valve with Proton and all that kind of stuff, which also the credit to the Wine developers for keeping things up for so many decades, because they would not be able to, Valve would not be able to do what they're doing without the Wine project and everything. But it's just, it's getting so easy to use Linux now. I'm just really hoping that somebody can put some good attention towards making Proton work for regular desktop apps, because I think that's one of the biggest things that we're missing is just some sort of Proton-like compatibility tool. Bottles is great and it makes a lot of things easy. And, you've got some wine tools out there and stuff like that. But if somebody could just create a better front end to where it's like single click install, almost like using an exe file, that would be golden.
There are definitely some command line tools that do let you hook into Proton.
Has to be GUI.
Yeah.
If we want actual adoption, it has to be GUI.
I'm not aware of any GUI ones, but I don't see any reason why someone couldn't do that if they wanted to. It's just, most people interacting with Proton are doing so through Steam. So I know there's been work to interact with Proton through tools like Lutris. I don't know how far that has come along, but that would probably be the most obvious route to get there. But I get what you're saying as well, like just making having it, or even just having it be like a daemon that runs in the background, and you can just click an exe and it sets everything magically up for you.
Zorin does a great job with some of that already, but it's like that. Maybe they need to switch to Proton, or maybe it still needs some work or something like that, because it's not quite there. It's not as reliable as it should be. But I watched a video the other day actually of somebody taking the Affinity Suite and using Lutris to get the Affinity Suite running, which actually the Affinity Suite runs surprisingly well on Linux. But of course, the classic problem and why Valve is making things work as well as they do. But a classic problem is it works today, an update happens, and it doesn't work tomorrow. And when you're talking about software that you've got to be able to rely on, you've got to be able to have a company like Valve behind it, or Codeweavers or something like that. Maybe somebody can make something happen, System 76 maybe, but somebody can make something happen that actually is like, okay, updates happened, it bricked some software, let's send a patch out.
Right.